Look at that. So just so you guys can know this.
Getting defensive. That's why we've been bleeding for 5 days. And so now I think that
don't be afraid that this market has crashed a bit, because this is what the billionaires are doing.
there's a relief and some capital gets put to work, and it's good for equities and risk assets.
How much more can these stocks rally?
I think there's a lot of upside, especially because, once you get an ISM back above 50, it really does argue for a broadening of markets. And I think one of the leaders probably comes from the financial sector. So I think, towards the end of the year, 6,800, 7,000 is possible.
Led by tech still?
Yeah, so I think you still want to play
this week.
Yeah, you want to be long AI and the crypto trade, because those have been the market leaders. So the Mag 7, Bitcoin, Ethereum.
Very recently, Tom Lee signaled that the Federal Reserve is getting ready to pivot, and there is a ton of upside for all of the top cryptocurrencies, including XRP. And that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Because if the Fed is pivoting, like pretty much everybody is believing on Wall Street, like JP Morgan and Chase, Goldman Sachs are all believing, then what this shows is that a lot of liquidity is getting ready to come back into the markets in a massive way. Trillions of dollars flooding in. And, well, it doesn't happen exactly when you guys are expecting it all to happen. And so that's what we're going to discover, talk about, and bring to you guys in a very valuable...
I feel like the big potential we have right now is the retail investors, guys. Again, 2021 retail investor was huge. And now we are talking about corporation investors when the ETFs arrives, guys, in October. This is what nobody's telling you. It's not just retail. I don't feel like retail is going to be the strongest. It is going to be an effect. But the corporations buying, again, they want to diversify their assets because the dollar is getting really bad right now. So the billionaires are predicting corporations will be buying. What do you guys think?
Way in today's video. Now, before we get into that, I do want to mention that I did just launch...
We just heard.
Well, I think that it's the Fed acknowledging that the risks now are tilted for the labor market to be softening, and they want to head that off, especially because they don't think that tight labor markets are going to necessarily create inflation. That's a very good sign, and I think it means we have a dovish Fed again, and that's kind of a green light for small caps.
Small caps
and for equities.
They are working. Last I looked, small caps were up 3%. So is this what we need to really confirm the sort of broadening that comes and goes in the market?
Yeah, because I think that one of the things we should watch for is what happens to mortgage rates. But mortgage spreads are right now 360 basis points higher than the 10-year. Historically, it's 1.6 percentage points. So you could see a huge drop in mortgage rates. That's going to help housing, helps the financial small caps. And I think already the ISM, which has been below 50 for almost 30 months now, could finally go back above 50, and that's a good sign for industrials.
Although we had a discussion right on the heels of the speech about a little steepening in the curve. Is there a sense that the vigilantes are at least present, if not being necessarily vocal?
Yeah, but we could also be steepening because growth expectations are improving.
See, growing rate. The economy is getting better, more money coming in, which means US dollars. Companies don't like keeping US dollars. What will they buy? Crypto. The top 3 cryptos, Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum. These are going to be the top ones, including stocks. Stocks will also grow. But, some of these companies, they like to get a little more riskier, on the riskier side, in my personal opinion.
As well, so this could be like what I'd call a bull steepening. I'm not really sure what the fixed income terms are, but I think it's actually a positive sign for growth.
The only real losers today are going to be some of the yielders and some staples. Would you be cautious on those?
That's right. I think that markets have been holding their breath. They've been getting defensive. That's why we've been bleeding for 5 days. And so now I think there's a relief and some capital gets put to work, and it's good for equities and risk assets.
How much more can these stocks rally?
I think there's a lot of upside, especially because, once you get an ISM back above 50, it really does argue for a broadening of markets. And I think one of the leaders probably comes from the financial sector. So I think, towards the end of the year, 6,800, 7,000 is possible.
Led by tech still?
Yeah, so I think you still want to play
this week.
Yeah, you want to be long AI and the crypto trade because those have been the market leaders. So the Mag 7, Bitcoin, Ethereum. But the broadening is really the financials, industrials, and small caps.
So you like them all?
Yeah, it's kind of cyclicals, AI and crypto, but not the defensives. I think it's a really important moment happening this year with, the Genius Act, really greenlighting stable coins, and then Project Crypto, which is Wall Street moving on to the blockchain. I think it's a lot like 1971 when the US dollar went off the gold standard. That created the innovation of Wall Street because they had to sort of essentially create this synthetic dollar.
This is exactly the times the market really pumped.
Wall Street moving on to the blockchain is a bigger moment, and I think that's why Ethereum is essentially having its 1971 moment equivalent.
But a lot of people just see it as wild speculation and fraud.
So basically, the crypto markets are going to change forever overnight. That's what he's calling for. If this year it goes up at least $5, I'll sell. Yeah, that's a pretty good, time. Again, not financial advice, but it seems like $5 is going to be on a higher risk level for a lot of people. So there is an RSI for XRP, and at $5, it kind of makes sense, especially for the big whales to start selling off. But we first have to break out through the $4 mark.
People tend to call it froth. I think they called AI a frothy trade now, but we know it has a lot of legs, and it's been taking place for a couple years. Keep in mind, Ethereum is also the place where when agentic AI comes together, when you have robots and you want proof of human, you want to make sure those commands come from a verified source. That's all taking place on a smart contract. A lot of it will be
technology is the ones that's really going to be awarded. Everybody, I guess, guys, we can agree technology is the thing that really people will look at. And here's where, AI and payment transfers really win.
So what you can very clearly see here is Tom Lee is tying in the AI boom to cryptocurrency growth. And of course, stablecoins are going to play a very large part in that as well. In essence, he's perma-bullish on the crypto market and artificial intelligence, saying they're essentially going to be leading the charge on this bull run. And that's why I think particularly it begs everyone's attention to be looking closely at XRP, because they're focused down heavily in the stablecoin space. They're solving real world financial issues. They have ETFs on the way, and we've already...
interest rate cuts are going to be a big thing, but the issue is one interest rate cut for a bull run is not enough. If we could get at least 2 from Jerome Powell, that would be amazing. Also, the ETFs, that's a big thing that, basically XRP has been begging for. And if anyone's going to get XRP ETFs, it's going to be XRP with that trading volume. And we could be getting, this could be the start. XRP ETFs in Korea, imagine how many sellers. Like if we have a lot of traders in Korea from XRP ETFs, there's going to be a huge influx of buyers.
Seen previously back in November what happened when we had rate cuts and an election super cycle happening one in tandem with one another. It massively outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum and pretty much every other crypto altcoin during that 3-month period of time from November to January. And so I do think that overall there's a ton of upside here, very little downside to, in my point of view anyways, to a lot of these higher cap cryptocurrencies, which are fairly cyclical, as Tom Lee was mentioning here. And that's why I'm preparing to really just put my head down for the next few months here, especially after the rate cuts happen, if they do happen in September or October. Either way, it's time to really buckle down, lock in, and just make the most of this bull.
October, every single streamer, every single I can't say politician, but every single person in XRP is saying October. And that's why, guys, I'm doubling down. I'm not doubling down on September. I like to be honest with you guys. September is not going to be a big thing in crypto, I personally believe. And you can come back and, I don't know, tell me like September was awesome. But personally, I believe October is going to be the big thing. Ripple USD, how does it drive the value of XRP? So Ripple USD basically is going to be another big thing. They're going to be partnerships, and basically you can pay bank loans, you can pay contracts, bank transfers, whatever it is. That's where Ripple USD and all of these projects are really going to shine, because they have some NDAs in work.